are talking a classic horror story. Yep, that's actually the name of this movie. And on its surface is best described as Midsummer meets Wrong Turn with a meta kind of narrative. So what is the story? Well, it focuses on these 5 people that are doing some type of ride share in a kind of caravan, like a holiday home, sort of mobile kind of holiday home. And they are kind of going across country, and we get a variety of people. They're all, it takes place in Italy. It's actually an Italian movie, though there is a little bit of English dialogue in this film as well. And they are run off the road when they see like a dead animal in the middle of the road. And they pass out because they've crashed. But then when they wake up, they are seemingly kind of transported into this clearing where it's surrounded by trees and this kind of oddly styled house. And they seem to be in a completely different place. Not only that, there seems to be some strange cult that is lurking around wanting to do some dastardly things to them. What will happen? You're going to have to watch the movie to find out. So, I'll have to be somewhat vague with the plot of this one, because the whole point of this movie is, as you'd probably expect for some of the films, there's a big reveal and things may not be as immediately apparent as they seem. But I will stand by my kind of likeness of films like a cross between Wrong Turn, Midsummer, but with kind of a meta sort of narrative. Almost, maybe you want to say like a Scream sort of style meta narrative. And if once you see the movie, you understand what I mean by that. So what do I think works, first of all, in this film? I have to say the first 2 acts of this movie play somewhat traditionally. And I was like fully invested in the kind of the mystery about what was happening. You know, how did they get to this kind of area? What's actually kind of going on? Who are these kind of strange cultists that appear in the woods? And I've got to say, I thought it was a strong and intriguing narrative. And, you know, it's one of these things where your mind's starting to kind of make theories and kind of trying to kind of work out what's happening. And we kind of given a few kind of breadcrumbs here and there. I thought the cast did a great job. I mean, it's sometimes a little difficult to judge foreign language movies, because obviously I'm reading the text, and sometimes it's not always a true translation. So some of the kind of the emotional nuances are lost. But I got to say, I thought the cast here did a good job and made for some memorable kind of characters here. There are some quite brutal sequences in this movie. There's a scene which I won't spoil for you, but it's not particularly explicit what we see on screen, but the implication is pretty disgusting and kind of painful. And the movie does a good job here of, you know, making you feel squeamish without really kind of showing it all on screen. I have to say, I think the production value is very good. When we kind of see these kind of like this strange, weird kind of narrative that unfolds, but you feel like it has this good production value, like, you know, and we see this kind of this clearing with this kind of like this weird sort of style house. It looks really kind of creepy, and you don't quite know what's kind of going on. And I think the movie does a great job of kind of selling you on that. The third act, I have some mixed feelings with, but even though I do have some issues with the third act, there are still some things what I liked about it. Again, it's hard to sort of say without kind of spoiling anything, but there is a reference to an organisation, a very well-known organisation that I thought was kind of quite clever. I quite liked that, and there's even in that third act, there's a couple of well-shot sequences and characters that were introduced to late in that third act that seem intriguing, and a kind of quite brutal sequence as well. What doesn't work for me, mainly the third act, to be honest. I think the third act tries to be very clever, and some people may love it. I thought it failed quite spectacularly. You feel the wind come out from beneath your wings, is what I'll say. When you learn what actually is the kind of the real situation and what's kind of going on, you're thinking, really? That seems stupid. It seems dumb when you think about, again, I'm not going to say spoilers here, but think about what's actually going on here and the amount of people that would have to be involved. It just seems silly. And why would they do it? Yeah, I mean, I get that it doesn't want to be a complete clone of movies like, you know, Wrong Turn, Midsummer, The Wicker Man, things like that. So it tried to subvert your expectations and kind of go off in this kind of other direction. But to me, where that went was stupid. You know, I won't mince the words. I thought it was stupid. And I did not like that section as a whole. Albeit there was a couple of sequences that I thought were still well done, but as the narrative goes, I thought the story really kind of jumped off a cliff there. But even in the first two acts, there were still a couple of instances where I felt like the movie just kind of did some typical kind of like, typical movie things that, you know, that happen in horror films, and that's the kind of the ironic thing with the title here. The title's supposed to be quite ironic. I'm not going to spoil why that is. But we have a character, our kind of group of protagonists find another character who appears to have been sort of captured or something. And one of the characters, our main protagonist, asks this other character, this one they've just discovered, you know, do you know a way out of this forest? And the character answers, that's the thing, we're not in a forest. And then kind of something happens and they never address that again. Now, if you were that character, if you are our main protagonist, you would follow up that question. And it's just like, it's just typical kind of like movie logic where it doesn't do that. Overall, this movie's first two acts I think are very strong. Albeit there's little wobbles here and there, but mostly they're pretty strong. The third act for me was, I get that they wanted to have something original, but to me, it just went to a very silly place. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.